on other roads, I think that, as we go forward here, there is more the ability of Public Works to do a lot of this preparatory work, getting in under drains, establishing drainage ditches and stuff like that. Drainage is the most important thing you can do for any road. And as long as we're continuing that good preparatory work, then paying the pavers to come in and do the paving, which they do best. That's a good approach. We did this in North Strabane for a number of years on a lot of country roads, and they're very satisfied with the same approach, and it's worked well.
Thank you. Any other questions?
What are you going to put on the shoulder? You're not going to put number 3s like you do on Grange Road. I hope. I mean, you've got 5,000 pound millings up there. And then you know yourself, if you put them millings on the shoulder, eventually they're going to turn into asphalt, which would be a good thing.
Yeah, we haven't talked about how we're going to reestablish the shoulder yet, but
I think using the pavement base train, and I prefer to call it pavement base train, because what you're trying to do is keep the moisture out from underneath the roadbed. And then backfilling with 57s and then topping it with number 1s is a good way to go as far as addressing the berm.
That's fine.
I wouldn't recommend putting recycled asphalt on a hill that has that type of grade, because it's going to wash out. It's not going to stay there unless you do what I call a wet shoulder and put some type of binding agent with a wrap material, recycled asphalt product. Normally you run it through a put mill, you use an emulsifier on it as a binder, and then you can put it in place. But without that additive, without using a wet shoulder, that material will just migrate down the hill and accumulate at the bottom of the burn side. So I think in this situation, pavement base drain along with Astro number 57s with a layer of number 1s on top of it as the berm dressing, acting as a filter, and lateral shoulder support. I think this would be more than adequate to get that water and keep it out from underneath the roadbed. Because that's where the destructive nature of the freeze-thaw cycles comes from. Water's trapped in the roadbed, expansion, contraction, and next thing you know, the road's blown.
And Ron, in this case, if we put a full storm sewer in, unless we put a storm sewer in as a combination under drain and laid a bunch of stone along the edge of the road, under drain is just as effective. And if you put the storm sewers in, all you're really doing is collecting the road water itself, where the majority of the water is coming off of the various properties towards the road there, and would still have to establish something to address that. So I think that's where I think the difference is when we say storm sewers. We want to address the drainage, and we will address the drainage as a part of this. We're just not putting in catch basins and pipe.
But the elevations over there, and you know yourself, I've done a lot of jobs with Gateway. Whenever you come up with a job and they see something, they did it right. If you had to add inlets or whatever, you did it right. Every job I ever been on.
Sure.
This job over here, the difference in elevations, that water's going to pick up a lot of speed. And it's going to wash the sides of them roads out. I'm just saying, I know it's going to. You're going to be back there after every major storm, fix some of those things.
I think there are 4 cross drains out there.
Yeah, but eventually all going to go somewhere, you know what I'm saying?
There's some, I mean, it's not like a huge, long run.
I looked at it very closely.
It does a couple of those, so as long as you carry the water down to those cross drains, you should be fine. I mean, again, I think that this will do what we need to do. We don't want to do things twice. But I didn't see anything out there that will cause me alarm that there were any major ruts along the road where you see things where you have an extraordinary amount of surface water. I think it's more water migrating underneath the pavement.
There's a couple of areas where the water's just trapped.
Yeah.
Just due to the unimproved condition of the slope.
Okay, is there any other questions?
We'll do it right. I mean, if we need to extend the underdrain a little bit further, or we need to do if we run into a spring or something like that, of course we're gonna do what we need to do is right.
I just don't want to see like the money being spent like it's spent on the farm. And Bill, how labor intense is that? Very labor intense.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, and it's only been 2 years. And I hope you're right, Dan. I do. Underdrain will definitely help. But it's not going to be the spec or right. If you feel it's going to hold up, I don't agree with it. I think it's on crumble.
Okay, go ahead.
The section of McConnell Road that's being worked on right now with the milling on the shoulders. How many years ago did you say that was paved on? No, it's been longer than that. 2 years ago, we did from East Bishop up to the apartments.
Right.
I live on that road.
Right.
That road's been paved a long time.
The upper section
Okay?
has been. It's been
That's
6
my
or
first
7
thing
years.
about that road. The second thing is, everyone's worried about washouts along this road on Anger. Why can't we wedge curb it? You control the water with a wedge curb. Everybody else is doing it that way. Once you get to a cross drain, you run it down into the cross drain, you put R6 in there, and you can put wedge curbs from the top of that hill all the way down to Burnside, and the water won't be on the road. It won't be washing yet, and your ditching is done. You have no more ditching. The only problem with a wedge curb is in the winter when you're plowing it, you get up on it, you lose a little bit of snow. But, you know, once you learn where it's at, I mean, you don't have to have a real, just a little one. Just to control the water from going over it. Am I right, Dan?
Yeah, I mean,
Basically, I don't know how much more cost that would be asphalt.
No, I mean, wedge curb is a couple bucks a foot. It's not a huge number. No, and if we need wedge curb, and that's a decision, I mean, again, I would look at that as a field decision we'd make once we get the thing opened up.
I mean, on a hill like that, Ronnie's right, it's definitely, the water will definitely come down that road. But you gotta bleed it off as soon as you can to get, you know, to take that, so it doesn't go all the way down to Burnside.
Sure.
But a wedge curb, you could asphalt like a little slope, we've done it, where it goes right into the cross drain.
So you'd make that decision?
Yeah, I think that would be a field call once we get it opened up and see what we have there.
Am I right, Bill?
Yeah.
I mean, basically,
I think you have a total length there of about 1,600 to 1,800 feet.
so that's 3,200.
So, I mean, you have to outlet that water somewhere, I mean, because you're picking up volume and velocity as you go downhill. So, like Dan said, every 400 feet, every 300 feet, if you have a cross drain, that allows you to unload that volume and reduce the velocity of the water. Because the more volume you have, the more velocity you're going to pick up, and you got a full head of steam coming down that hill. So, with the 4 cross drains that are in place, I think we'll take a look at maybe making field calls out there with regard to using a wedge curb to direct it into the cross drain, and then using R4 rock lining at that cross drain to get that water into that pipe.
What's your cartway on it, Bill?
It ranges, the range of the road, it's from 16 feet at the narrowest to 19 feet at the widest point.
So you're gonna take a little bit of the cartway out if you do put a wedge curb in.
I think that there's the ability in there when they do the base reclamation, we'll get a little bit wider in there that we'll have something to work with.
I mean, that's my suggestion, I think, if you're worried about it.
I think definitely as you get down towards the bottom where the water concentrates a little bit more, but definitely a curb would be.
Because
Again, we make
in-
those calls in the field.
And you gotta look at it in the long run, you won't have to go back there every year to ditch.
Right.
You're done. You know, your manual, your labor-wise is done. I'm a big believer in wedge curbs wherever you can get them in.
Down and see what we can do to I want to say value engineer it in the same way that we did on Anger to address some of the critical points that we need to and still get a good road surface in there for the community. Again, it's a very expensive road. It's a long road no matter what. There's still a lot of paving that needs to be done on there. Bill's already started addressing the drainage issues. So we hope to come back to the board with another report that they can consider that in their budget, whether it be this year or next year or whatever they decide to do. That's the
So you're not
And then-
concerned about all the school buses traveling on this road?
I'm concerned about any vehicles traveling.
Well, they're always saying for our children,
Right.
But this road's been put back and put back and put back. I don't see concern.
I just want to state for the record, our decision today on Anger Road has absolutely nothing to do with Coleman Road. It
I'm not
doesn't-
saying anything.
It
I
doesn't-
asked a question about Coleman Road, and that's all I want answers to.
Right,
No,
and
and I don't
that's-
want to hear anything else.
And we answered it, even though this meeting was on.
Well,
we were
you're
answering.
always concerned about the children. 7 school buses on this
That's
road.
actually, I actually talked to Matt Harding, the Director of Transportation at Kennewick Mellon. There are not 7 school buses that drive Coleman Road, just for a first
So you're saying,
There's
saying
one.
those people out there did not tell the truth?
Then let her
I'm
talk.
saying this morning I spoke to Matt Harding, the Director of Transportation at Kennewick Mellon School District. There is 1 bus that drives elementary school. There is 1 bus that drives middle and high school. I'm not, irrelevant. I don't care. I don't want a bus full of kids to go off, or I don't want a car with a 97-year-old woman to go off. I don't want anyone to go off, but our decision today on Anger Road does not mean we are not considering Coleman Road. It is a long process. There are a lot of things to consider. We are in the process of doing it, and we will consider things for Coleman Road in the future.
In the future.
And that's exactly what,
We're
that's,
relying on our engineers, our public works director. They encouraged us today to be here to make a decision on Anger Road. We will consider Coleman separately. We're not saying that we're not going to do it.
So how many years has it been since they've taken care of that road?
Taking care of what road?
They don't take care of that road.
Which road? Coleman? or-
Coleman Road, it doesn't get taken care of.
well, that's basically up to Bill to answer. But what you said to your question, though, was the fact of what are we doing about Coleman Road? This meeting really is about anger, but I will answer, we did mention it at the last meeting. We had said what Dan reiterated, basically, is to go ahead and review exactly what can be done on Coleman Road. And that's what he's doing right now.
Shame on you.
So once you decide on Anger, you're gonna put all your emphasis on Coleman?
I would say we're putting all our efforts on any particular road. There are a lot of
But what I'm
roads.
saying is you wanna get Anger out of the road now,
We are here today
then concentrate.
at the request of our public works director and our engineers who implored us to consider the work on Anger Road in connection with the developer's work on the other side from Overlook down to Technology. It's a cost savings to our taxpayers.
It's South Point, it's going to South Point, we
It's a cost
take care of
savings to our
that.
taxpayers to do the work in conjunction with it. Anger is in such bad condition, it's closed to through traffic. There's not one road in the township that I think is any more important than the other, but Coleman, yes, is under consideration, along with every other road in the township.
And we are saving money by having a special meeting and moving forward while the contractor, instead of making them remobilize later on.